Let's just try with the arms behind the back, just to straighten that point in the back where it tends to collapse as we become self-engrossed. The pressure of the arms on that point on the spine is helping what's beneath that point drive down into the chair, and what's above that point to reach up to the ceiling. And what I always recommend to help the mind stay with something that's as seemingly nothing as this is just the pursed lip breathing. So breathing through the small hole. So breathing in and out through the small hole. So there's an element of work and an element of continuity produced by the pursed lip breathing. Feel the connection between the sacrum and the sternum. I always think of them as like the two mirrors of a periscope. There's a connection between them that's enabling the up and the down. Okay, now just bringing the hands together into prayer posture. There's that wonderful Buddhist saying, cease activity and return to stillness, and that stillness will become even more active. This is what we're looking for all the time. We're becoming still so that we can just be quiet enough inside to notice the natural movement that's going on in the background all the time. This is what we call central equilibrium. So when I'm sitting here, there's the movement of gravity that's trying to pull me down. And then there's a thrust up from the ground, which is balancing that. There is also another background force, which is always there, and so we tend not to notice it, which is atmospheric pressure. So there's a pressure from the atmosphere on my whole body trying to crush me inwards. So there must be an internal pressure inside my body that's pushing against that, that's maintaining an equilibrium. So dynamic equilibrium, a balance of movements. And we just want to try and become aware of it, which requires us to become quiet inside. Now, when we put the hands together like this, we're creating another force, really, because the hands are, albeit gently, pushing into each other. They're trying to sort of melt into each other. Otherwise, they would separate and drop down. So I want the feeling that my arms are relaxed. They're being propped up by the contact. I just want to feel it. I want to feel the left hand trying to melt down towards the right elbow, and the right hand doing the same towards the left elbow. So the hands are trying to meld into each other. Feel the movement. It's never simple. It's never one thing pushing against another. They're always trying to sort of slide past each other a little bit. It's like, remember when we had magnets when we were kids, in the days when we had simple toys, and you'd try and push two north poles together, and they would never be able to touch because they would repel each other and they would slip past each other. Feeling here, it's like the two hands, they're trying to slip past each other rather than just press into each other. So that's the sense of the movement. Like this is still like this, and there's all this swirling going on around the system, which is the movement within each arm trying to get past the other. And then we just want that awareness, which our quietness and our interest, our attention is highlighting, to make us aware of the same sort of thing that's happening in the whole body. Feel gravity pulling you down. Gravity is pressing your sitting bones into the chair. The ground is erupting upwards and pushing against that, but it's not really against it. The two forces are trying to slip by each other. They're twisting and twining. This is what we want to feel. The earth is creeping up around my spine, a bit like an ivy that's growing around this tower, which is the spine. And there's a sense of something sort of flowing down, almost like a liquid that's flowing down the spine, and something that's creeping upwards and twining around from the ground. Link the fingers together. And grip. And then just pull the hands apart. And it can be as gentle or as vigorous as you like. Always have a slight twist going on. The two hands are trying to twist against each other a little bit. And now let's just place the hands on the knees. Feel that contact. Almost like your hands are trying to press into the knees. You're just trying to get some real significance in that contact. You can press into the knees, but the hands wrap around the knees, the fingers, so you can also pull at the knees. And then just feel the breathing. So the breathing with the spine, so that as the spine arches up like this, the hands are pulling at the knees. And then as you breathe out and the spine collapses a little bit, you're pressing into the knees with the hands. And then just bring one hand onto the opposite knee, the other hand behind, and just twist yourself, just pulling gently to try and get yourself round, and then produce a contrary force. So the force you're pushing against isn't simply the resistance of your body having reached the limit of its stretch. You're now turning the head the other way. So part of you is trying to twist against that force. So now there are now two active forces, one from your arm and one from your head. Just want to keep those two movements, those two forces active. And then just the other side. First of all, just get the pull from the arms. You're pulling yourself round so that you could look behind yourself. And then just turn the head the other way. There are two yous, one your body, which is trying to pull round from the hand, and one your mind that's trying to get round the other way from your eyes and your head. And now let's just try just a little bit more. The arms behind. And then just the hands back round to the front on the Dan Chen. And the lower Dan Chen is the center, the reservoir. It's the bottom of the upper body, and it's the top of the lower body. So in Chinese theory, Chinese medicine, the lower Dan Chen is where essence is transformed into qi. And then the middle Dan Chen, the heart, is where qi is transformed into spirit. And then the upper Dan Chen is where spirit is transformed into what they call nothing. So I remember when John asked Dr. Chi, what's the highest level of Tai Chi? And he was expecting Dr. Chi to say spirit. And Dr. Chi thought for a moment and then just said nothing. So each center gets more rarefied, as you'd expect. And when the head is full of thoughts, it just cannot do what it's meant to do, which is transform spirit into emptiness or nothing. Bright and empty, functioning naturally. The mind does not exert itself. It is not a place of thinking, difficult for reason and emotion to fathom. Moving from leg to leg. The sense of a system that is under a lot of pressure, internal and external. So a system that can explode at any moment. So central equilibrium, highly charged central equilibrium. The slowness of my movement is not an indication of low energy, but an indication that the two forces under equilibrium are almost equal, which would produce absolute stillness. So the forces are strong, but they're balanced. Like an animal that's on the prowl, it's prowling because it's hunting, it's moving really slowly, but instantly it could spring into immense speed and power. And I want to become aware of the nature of the movement. So how do I move from foot to foot? We're trying to be as refined, sensitive, and careful as possible. So the opposite of clumsy. If we're moving in a clumsy way, then we're just unaware, really, unaware of our own body and our own strength, and unaware of the environment we're moving around in. So like a bull in a china shop, or as they say here, like an elephant in a china shop. And so that would be me just moving around with just this feeling of it's all coming from me. Now, if I'm moving carefully and sensitively, then I'm very much aware of where I'm going to be next. And I have to choose that point really carefully, and I have to get there in a very sort of gentle way. So what that means is that my mind, rather than it being with me, my mind is with the place that I am moving towards, rather than the place I'm coming from. So my mind is in this foot, and then my body moves towards it, and then my mind is in this foot. And I want to feel the foot becoming active before the weight has got completely into this foot. So I straighten this leg, and that straightening extends the toes. So these toes are extending, and then they pull. So as the toes extend, my mind is there. And then I grab the ground with my toes. And then my mind slips here. So you're just moving exactly the same way you would be if you were walking. Let's say you're on a sort of a mountain path, which is a little bit uneven. You'd have to be really careful with your feet so that you don't stumble. So I'm very much aware of that ground, and then I draw myself into it. So it's my empty leg that's moving me. My full leg is supporting my weight, but my empty leg is actually moving my weight, so that I actually move exactly towards the place I have decided to move towards. And then we just want to become aware of the natural turning. So this is what's difficult about moving, really. As I stretch this leg in order to extend my toes, and also to push myself completely into this leg, it naturally pushes me away from it. So I turn this way. So it becomes a back leg. And so I don't really see it. I can't really see the toes unless I turn my head, which I don't want to do. I want to keep my head and shoulders in line with my hips. And so at the point where these toes start to pull me round, it's a blind spot. That point is a blind spot. And I just have to trust enough to pull towards it. And now this is the extending foot, it's the back leg, and then it pulls me round. This way of moving also turns me. It's what I want to see. By straightening the leg, it's turning me away from it. And by bending the leg, it's turning me towards it. And it's natural because if I really wanted to get maximum extension here, I would turn away. The same way if you're trying to reach something that's on a really high shelf, you're reaching up and looking at the object, but then it's not, you haven't got the right enough extension. So then you have to turn away from it to get your arm to reach up just a few more inches, and then you can grab it. So when you turn away from the thing, you've actually got more extension. And this is because our limbs issue from our back, not from our front. So here both my arm is coming from my shoulder blade, which is on my back, and my leg is coming from my hip, from the back of my hip and my sacrum. And so there's part of my mind that's with my eyes, that's with what I see. But now another part of my mind has to be with my blind spot, has to be where I can't see, because that's where I'm going to be moving into. And what we're trying to do really is just get the leg as straight as possible when it's extending. And then it will just bend all the more easily when I let that go. It will sort of recoil into a bend. To riding horse, feeling the dantian and the sacrum. Feel the arch of the legs. So the dantian is sitting on top of that arch, but it's also at the bottom of your upper body. So your upper body really is defined by these two folds here. So if you think of like a circle that just takes that in as the bottom, your throat at the top. And the dantian is the bottom of your upper body, bottom of that circle, and the top of the arch of the legs. And then just feel the sacrum as the place where the one becomes two. It branches. And then it's the play of the two playing together that allows movement to come into the body. And now let's just breathe. So here we're trying to get the spine breathing. So the spine is flexing forwards and then extending backwards. Feel the muscles. This is the muscles of my belly contracting. And then this is the muscles in my lower back contracting. So the front contracts and the back contracts. Now we want to feel those two muscles, front and back, being like two sheets of elastic or two elastic bands that are working against each other. So here my belly is contracting, but that is also stretching the back. And then if I just release that, then the back will naturally spring back. And then I contract the back and that stretches the belly. And then I release that and the belly will naturally spring back. And then if I keep the belly going into a real contraction, it will stretch the back. This is how I want to feel the action of my muscles, the agonist and the antagonist. So it's not my belly working and then my back working. The belly working is what stimulates the back to start, and vice versa. How yin comes from yang and vice versa. And now let's just do a circuit down the body into the ground, reaching out, up and down the body. It's the same muscles, back and belly, that are working to produce this circuit. And now just lifting the hands from belly to heart, but as though my hands don't really move and I'm slipping underneath them to bring them up to the level of my heart. And then I straighten my legs to bring my Dan Chen up. So relative to the ground, my hands aren't really moving. I'm just slipping under them and then over them. So when I practice this with my students, we've got the hands on the back of a chair or on a table. So they do actually remain stationary. So I'm slipping underneath and then I'm pushing the table down in order to make my body come up. Now my hands slip under the table and pull the table up to make my body go down. And then I just bring them on top. And now let's just bring the feet up a bit. And now just doing the opposite circuit to the first one that we did. So now just lifting the hands up the front. Turn the hands over at the heart and reach up. And then just bending the knees, go down as low as you can, and then just bring it up. Like you're reaching down for nutrients and then you're bringing them up your body and into your foliage, into your crown, and then reaching down again. trying to train the legs to take the strain. So it's not my back that's taking the strain here, it's my legs. This is one of the problems with modern bodies. The legs just aren't strong enough, so the back just takes a lot more strain than it should. Keep the eyes ahead, and then it will help you not use the back too much. And then just hands on the down chin. Alternating the feet. I want to feel the root going down from the heel and the root coming up back into the leg on the foot that's coming off the ground. So here I put the heel down gently and then I just sink my weight into it. And then there's an aspect of me that can lower down into the ground, which enables this one to be free. So I'm sinking down one, lifting up the other. Feel them sort of coordinated. So for each inch of injection here, there's an inch of retraction on the other. And I want to feel that lowering, that injection of the needle from this heel being largely encouraged, if not produced, by my tail relaxing and unraveling. So it's my tail extending into the ground that gives me my sense of a root. And the better I get at it, the more I'm able just to keep my concentrated mind on the job without getting distracted, the sharper the needle will be and the finer it will be. It's what you find with clumsy people with minds that are constantly distracted. Their energy is very blunt. I'm sitting into this heel, and something from the heel is going down into the ground. So your root is like a hypodermic needle. It's my weight sinking into this foot that drives it into the ground. But then it's that sense of lifting, which I get by bringing this heel off the ground and bringing the foot up, and also just contracting a little bit here, that sucks the blood from the ground, brings something up into the upper body. So very much two directions. But what's going down is very different than what's coming up. And now let's try the same thing, but with the stepping. So I sink into this heel. That gives me a sense that I'm reaching into the ground. It's a strange feeling. And then the other foot can step forward. And I want to step with my toes because I don't want to put the heel on the ground yet. And as I slowly come into the foot and the heel goes down, I inject through that heel and the back heel comes off the ground. So I've only got one complete heel on the ground at any time. So this heel goes down, this heel comes up. And again, it's just figures of eights. My root going into the ground is the bottom of the figure of eight. And my heel coming off the ground is the top of the figure of eight. The slowness of the movement is a measure of the care and the balance that you have yourself under. It requires utmost concentration. It's like when you're doing weight training. So you've loaded the bar to your maximum. It's on your back. You're going to squat. You go down. You're not sure if you're going to be able to get it up again. So what you have to do is just trust your ability to just let go and explode your energy all in one go. So you're down there. You just scream and drive with your legs. And slowly you start floating upwards. So the movement is so slow when you're really at your max. And it's so gentle and so beautiful. There is a real sense of something serenely floating upwards in the midst of this crazy explosion. So it's very similar here. And then let's try the other foot. Heel goes down, so this heel can come up. I only have one root at a time. As one root goes down, the other one comes up. Okay. It's a riding horse. It's very difficult, but this is the sort of strength we need. Just the ability to go down at least to thighs parallel without having to make any major adjustment here. So if I've got my bum in and then I try to go down, I can only get down to like here. If I want now to go down any further, I have to let my bum out to go down any further, to go down into a squat. So what I don't want to do, I don't want my bum in to be something that's preventing my bum going out. If my bum needs to go out, then it goes out. I need to be able to just go down. And when I get to that point of my bum needing to go out, it just naturally goes because it's not being held in. And then it can just come back. And when it comes back up, it'll just naturally come in. But I don't want it to be something in my mind that's just forcing it. And I think this is the big mistake that we made. And now the exercise that we've just been doing really, which is just bringing the root up. Let's just try it from here, but with the slightest of movements. So here I've got both roots are sort of extended like 50% down, if you like, because both legs have 50% of the weight. And now just let yourself turn this way a little bit in order to drive this heel into the ground. So like this leg is straightening a little bit and this heel is coming up. And then I turn back, this heel goes down and this heel comes up. I'm playing with the position of my roots. I'm playing from foot to foot. And it's very gentle. It doesn't need to be very extreme. With my mind, I want to feel that sense of something extending out of my body and into the ground. I'm not just coming onto the ground. So we're used to that. We're used to feeling the ground and feeling ourselves on it. Now we just need this sense that something in me is injecting down into it. So I have to first get down to the foot and then I can just, it's a sense of narrowing your mind and just really seeing that point in the heel where the needle comes out of. And it's the same when you put your hands on something, especially on another person. I put my hand on that person and there's something in me that comes out and extends all the way through their body into their ground, into their root, so that I have a sense of knowing them and a sense of having some control over their balance. Remember that story of John when he first met Dr. Chi? Dr. Chi said to him, "Would you like to push me?" So John says, "Okay." So John was pushing, falling over, because Dr. Chi was yielding. And then Dr. Chi said, now my turn, he said. And he just put his thumb on John's chest. And John said he couldn't move because it just caught his root. You know not only your own body, but you can extend out of that into whatever it is you're touching. And then you know that as well. So here, there's something is going down. Something is going down. And then you can just really just minimize that. just almost like a gesture. So ooh, something comes over. I'm looking over this way a little bit, up in the air a little bit. And that will extend this one and bring this one up. So there's this play all the time between your two legs, but really your two roots, your two connections with the ground. And then you get a real sense of just how relaxed you have to be across the sacrum to allow these two roots, one to go down, one to come up. If you're tense across here, then they'll both want to do the same thing. So there has to be something in my mind that's willing to go down, willing to get in the ground. We have a real mental block about that. And just training the body to be able to go down smoothly and come back up is the beginning to pushing the mind there as well. And then let's just bring it up. And the same thing here. It's easier to feel when the feet are closer together because there can be less and less movement of your body. When you're moving, concentrate on the stillness, and when you're still, concentrate on the movement. So when I'm moving in Tai Chi, I'm very much with my own inner stillness. And now here, ostensibly, my body is still. So my mind is pacing like this. My mind is wriggling from foot to foot constantly, just to keep the system liquid and dynamic. Otherwise, it'll tend to just freeze over and die.